Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talks Sex podcast. I'm your host, Maura Yelvington of Morph Transform Your Reality, where I help women step out of trauma and reclaim their power. I'm so happy to have you here for this open conversation about moms, sex, motherhood, children, relationships, marriage, and everything in between. So grab your drink of choice and let's dive in.
Beautiful. Nikki here with me today. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, thank you for having me on. My name is Nicki van Ingen Schenau, and I am originally Dutch. I live in Amsterdam right now, but I actually lived in Tokyo for the past 10 years, where I founded my own company, Tokyo Tours, and I organize guided tours with local guides in Japan.
I love it. And I'm so honored to have you here today because I feel like our conversation is really going to enlighten and open the door to a lot of topics that people don't really talk about, especially in the bedroom. And what I love about your story, we talked a little bit beforehand, and you guys will get to hear it. I love how you combine different cultures in your relationship and the different aspects and the different educational background when it comes to sex and combining it. So I would love to kind of get into that and talk about that. So why don't you share a little bit about your story and what brought you here to the podcast today?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, right now I'm a single mom. When I was still in Japan, I was married to a Japanese guy. We met when I was 29. I was doing online dating at the time, and I was doing it more out of boredom than anything else. So I wasn't really expecting to find the man of my dreams. I was also kind of experimenting sexually with BDSM and that kind of thing because I was very curious about it. And I thought it would be interesting to explore. And then I went on a date with a Japanese guy, and I thought, oh, interesting. I don't know anyone from Japan. His whole profile was in Dutch, so it was obvious that he was fluent in Dutch. So I thought, oh, he must have an interesting backstory, how he came to the Netherlands, how he can speak Dutch so well. So we met for a date, and all I thought was, oh, okay, we're just going to have lunch. We're going to talk for an hour, and then I'll never see him again. And we talked, and it was fun. And then at the end of the date, he asked me, is it okay if I give you a kiss? And I said, yeah, sure, fine. So he kissed me, and then we had dinner together, and he asked me, do you want to go to my place? And I said, yeah, sure, fine, why not? So went to his place, we had sex, and I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be just a one-night stand, and I'll probably never hear from him again. The sex wasn't great, but I was like, yeah, it's fine. In any case, and then afterwards, he really wanted to see me again. And after like 2 dates, he gave me the keys to his house and said, oh, you can come by. Oh my God, do you have to be in the picture too? Sorry, but please meet Miko.
Oh,
He needs to be the center of attention
of course.
at all times, which is obvious because look at how fabulous he is.
I know. He is
Anyway,
amazing.
yes. So so we had the one night stand, and he gave me the keys to his house, and he was like, yeah, you can come by whenever. And after dating for 2 months, he was like, oh, why don't you come and live with me? You can just cancel your apartment, cancel your lease, and then if it doesn't work out, you can just move in with your parents or something until you find something for yourself. I'm sure it'll be fine. So I was 29 at the time, and I was like, oh, I've just been messing about for the last 10 years or so. So maybe I will not find another guy who's so into me. And I was like, yeah, I might want the whole experience, get married, live together, buy a house, have kids, maybe. So maybe I should just say yes, because he seems to be really into me. And my parents were always like, yeah, you need to find a guy who likes you more than you like him, because that way he'll take care of you and that kind of thing. So I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just have to say yes. And he was very conservative where it came to sex. So he was like, especially as a student, I had experimented quite a bit with, threesomes, and I was dabbling into the whole BDSM thing. And I was supposed to meet someone around the same time I met my husband, to go to a swingers club, more out of curiosity than anything else, because I was like, I don't know if I would want to do anything with anyone, but I just like to have a look inside and see what kind of people are there and what's going on. So I was supposed to meet this guy around about the same time, but then when I met my husband, I thought, oh, okay, maybe I should cancel and focus on him instead. And right from the start, our sex life was super boring, and he only wanted to do really vanilla stuff, and everything was dirty, and he didn't like it. He didn't have much of a sex drive to begin with, and he wasn't really into foreplay. So I thought, well, all the other things are great. I mean, he will grow into it. I will make him become more adventurous. I mean, guys are generally more interested in sex than women, so I'm sure I'll be able to get him there, just see what his fantasies are. But he was more into role play, that kind of thing, like dress up as a schoolgirl or dress up as a sexy secretary, and that's not really my thing, because I always feel very awkward when I need to pretend to be someone else. So we did that for a couple of times, and then I was like, it's not really for me. And that is about as adventurous as he wanted to get. So basically, after I met him, the sex just went downhill from there and became less and less frequent. And then we moved to Japan in 2011. And before we left, I already decided that I wanted to have kids. So we were trying to become pregnant. And basically from that moment onwards, he was like, now everything is so scheduled and I don't really like it so much. And he started drinking a lot. So that wasn't great for his libido either. And I mean, his schedule changed. He was working all the time, so he was just tired a lot. He didn't sleep much, went out a lot. So the sex life became even worse after we moved to Japan, up to a point where he literally had to put a laptop next to my head playing pornography to even be able to have sex with me at all. And he started to blame me for it. He was like, oh, how can I possibly be attracted to someone like you, and you're ugly and you're fat and I can't get an erection? It's because of you. So you are the reason we can't have sex. So at that point, I was like, oh, it's fine. I'll just masturbate. I don't really need it. And then after I had my daughter, as soon as I became pregnant, he was like, okay, so now I don't have to have sex with you anymore because it's a problem for the baby and I might hurt the baby. So then we didn't have sex for, I think, at least a year, maybe longer. And then when we started having sex again, it was even more infrequent. It was like every few months, maybe. And I always had to be the one to initiate. He never wanted to have sex with me anymore. Basically, already when we were in Amsterdam, I was usually the one that would initiate. And at one point, I just had enough, and it felt like, how we say in Dutch, like pulling a dead horse. So I told him, I don't want to initiate anymore because it's so hard to get you going, and basically you're never in the mood. So if you want to have sex, you come to me, and I want to be the one that is seduced, and I want to be the one that is the pursuit, rather than having to do it to you all the time. So if you want it, then you come to me, and if not, then I'm okay with not having sex. So throughout the relationship, I always remained faithful. And then at one point, I found out that he had a Tinder Gold account, because I was on his Apple TV account, and I saw this thing with subscriptions. So I thought, oh, interesting. Let's have a look. And it said, oh yeah, Tinder Gold account was already going on for 6 months, and he was paying $60 a month for the account. And so I made a screenshot and I sent it to him, and I said, would you care to explain about this? And he said, oh yeah, I'm only doing it for the likes. I just it's for my ego. I need to know that I still matter. I need to know that people like me. I'm not using it to actually go out on dates. And I was like, is that seriously the best that you can come up with? That's such a stupid excuse. And he said, no, seriously. I said, oh, well, I don't believe you. And then later I found all these photos of him with girls, kissing them, lying in bed with them, that kind of thing. So I knew he was cheating. And so after both my parents passed away from cancer in 2018 and then 2019, I gave him kind of an ultimatum. So what do you want to do? Do you want to get a divorce? Do you want to continue with the relationship? Do you want to maybe do therapy? What do you want? And he said, oh no, I'm okay. Let's continue and we'll make it work. And I was like, okay, let's do that then. But then I really want you to go for it and make an effort. And he said, yeah, sure. So, after I came back from the funeral, there was like, I found condoms around the house and lingerie and hair accessories and everything. And so again, I asked him, what do you want to do? Clearly, you're cheating on me. And he was like, no, I just had all these stupid reasons why all this stuff was lying around the house. And then I was like, oh, I have my daughter. She was born in 2014. Let's just stay together because of her. I don't really need to have sex, and it's fine. And I'll just have my own life. He has his life. He's not really bothering me. He's never home. He's always traveling. And if he's not traveling and he's in the country, he's out the door before I wake up, and he comes home after I've gone to sleep. So he's not really in my water, so to say. So it's fine. And then COVID happened, 2020, and he was there all the time, and he was just annoying the hell out of me. And at one point I just had enough, and like whenever he had a minute to spare, he was on the balcony texting frantically, and whenever I came over and asked something, he would be like this, like, don't look at my phone. So I knew something was going on. So at one point I was like, I need an excuse to get rid of him. So he came home drunk one night, forgot to lock his phone. I took screenshots of everything, and it was clear that he was cheating on me. He had in his history for Google, he had locations for love hotels, because in Tokyo there are hotels that you can rent by the hour, because a lot of people are cheating, or young people, they still live with their parents. So if they want to have sex, they usually go to a love hotel. So he had a couple of locations where apparently he had been recently. And from his chat history, I could see from his messages that he was cheating. So the next morning I told him, I don't know what you're going to do tomorrow or where you're going to sleep, but it's not going to be here. So please pick up your stuff and leave. So he was really surprised by that, because I never really been so adamant or so forceful or so demanding where it came to his cheating. But I just really had enough, and I said, I want to go back to Amsterdam. I don't want to live here anymore. And he was managing my business affairs. So he was managing my finances for my own company, and big mistake. So he told me, if I'm not allowed to live in the apartment with you, then I'm going to clear out the account and I'm going to leave you with nothing. And I said, well, you'll do that anyway, because I don't even have access to the account. So regardless of whether you live here or somewhere else, you can clean me out or make sure that I have some money to rebuild. So it's up to you. So I don't really see the benefit of you living here. So do what you want to do and let me know. So yeah, when it came time for me to move back to Amsterdam, he had kept his promise, and my bank account was completely empty, and I had absolutely nothing to help me get started again. And yeah, so I came back empty-handed. I had 2 suitcases. He told me just pack the absolute essentials, stuff that you're going to need in the next 2 weeks. Put the rest in boxes and I will send it to you via mail. And then his new girlfriend moved into the apartment with him after I left. And she basically just threw everything out. So like photos, clothes, shoes, books, anything that was mine. She just had a little bonfire and like, yay. So yeah, it's been tough. I mean, adjusting, moving back to Amsterdam, regrouping and kind of finding my identity again, because I already lost both my parents. So who am I as a person? I'm no longer a business owner. I'm trying to find a job. I'm no longer a wife. Am I even attractive still? Do guys still want me? So it was really hard to kind of go through that. And with the divorce looming, like I really felt very crappy. But I was like, yeah, at least if I go back to Amsterdam, I have a shot at rebuilding my life and make something out of myself. I mean, I'm 46 now. I can still maybe date and find someone cute and maybe have a relationship or whatever. If I wait another 10 years, it might be a bit more difficult. So I felt, yeah, this is a good time for me to go back and try to find a job and start dating and make something of my life. So I'm very happy I made this decision, even though it was definitely the toughest choice I ever had to make in my life, to come back with nothing. And a lot of the time I didn't even have money to buy groceries when I didn't have my own job yet. And yeah, I couldn't really take care of my daughter financially in the beginning, so things were tough. I didn't have money to date or to go out or anything like that. So yeah, still, if I look back, if I can make the same choice again, I would definitely do it exactly the same way, because if things aren't working for you, it's always better to just choose you and to choose what's best for you, rather than stay in an unhealthy relationship and be miserable all of the time. And yeah, especially also from a sexual point of view, once you first meet your boyfriend or your husband or whatever, that is going to be the best sex of the relationship, and it usually just goes downhill from there, especially if the other person is not open to explore or to spice things up or take the initiative or yeah, just grow as a sexual person, then you're not going to move forward. So you need to decide for yourself whether that's something you want to you're going to be happy with or not. And if not, then that's something that you need to discuss and decide for yourself what your best point of action is.
Exactly. Your story is so amazing. And I'm so happy that you're sharing this, because I feel like so many women deal with this kind of situation. A lot of times when we get into a relationship, even from the beginning of your story, you can kind of tell that you were kind of compromising. It was interesting how you said that, your parents were like, find somebody that loves you more than you do. I always kind of felt from your story that you were like one foot in, one foot out, but
Exactly.
you were committed. Like you were 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but you were committed to make it work because that was the choice that you made. But then he also seemed like a very narcissist, kind of abusive person. And it's
True.
like how many of us kind of like we just cut off these, you're like, I can live without sex, even though that was something that was really important for you. It was like a big part of your identity.
Yes.
It was a big part of, like we were talking about, in European cultures versus Japanese culture, right? There's a very difference about how you see sex, how you talk about sex, how you act. And it seems like you were this open, blooming flower that kind of cut down. And
Exactly.
I see that with so many of my clients, the women that work with me. And I think listening to your story, there's just so many signs along the way how we're like, okay, I'm 29, I need to get married. Maybe I need to try this. This is what society wants me to do, and kind of trying to fit in and be okay, even though inside we know that that's not what we want. And we know that's not the person we want to be with. And we know that's not the sex we want to have. And we know that we don't want to cut that parts of it off, but it's like almost like we kind of do it because that's what women are supposed to do, quote unquote. And so sharing that story really shows the evolution almost of like the modern woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how we just kind of give up on us. And 1 second. Sorry. Yeah. So choosing you and leaving everything behind, that is so powerful. So what actually brought you to that point where you lost everything and yet you're willing to fight for you? Like, how does that feel?
Well, it was it's kind of a convergence of different things. So on the one hand, 2018 and 2019, both my parents died. And that kind of made me realize that there was no one that I needed to take into account anymore, because my parents always had this idea of what I should be like, and I always needed to meet their expectations. And when they both were gone, it kind of, in a way, unburdened me and made me think, oh, now I can be my own person. There is no one that that's going to tell me that I need to live a certain way or be a certain way or be a type of person, or what I can say or cannot say, or how I need to behave, or how I need to live my life. So in a way, that was quite freeing. And at the same time, I was watching a lot of RuPaul Drag Race on Netflix. And RuPaul is all about, if those bitches aren't paying your bills, pay them no mind, and be who you want to be, and don't listen to what other people say, and be happy in your own body, and celebrate your own sexuality, and choose you, and what kind of life do you want. So I was very much inspired by that. I was starting listening to RuPaul's music as well, and that kind of empowered me, and I started thinking like, oh yeah, she's right, and I do need to choose me. And now I still have the chance, and if I wait another 10 years, my life is going to be gone, and I will not have the opportunity again. And like you said, I was 29. I wanted to live up to all the pressures from society, like, oh, you need to get married, you need to stop dating around and having sex with random strangers and one-night stands and that kind of thing, experiment. And what I hate so much is the bias towards women. Like, men are considered tough or cool or whatever once they've had sex with a lot of women, but women are immediately labeled as trash or sluts. And I mean, I've even recently had sex with guys that want to have sex with me, and then later will complain to me like, oh, I don't want to see you anymore because you're a slut, because you had sex on the first date. And then I was like, yeah, but I had sex on the first date with you, so what does that make you? How am I the slut and you're the hero? That doesn't make sense to me. So
yeah, it's just like part of this reality, right? And that's
yeah.
exactly the point of these conversations, is to bring up these topics, they're really important that nobody really talks about. And empowering women to know that if you are feeling comfortable and you want to have sex, that's your right. And you don't need to give that up for anybody or for anyone, because being in that sexual energy and that power, when it comes from a true divine place, that's your source of creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, what I realized is there are 8 billion people out there. So there's no reason to get hung up over just one. If something isn't working, then just step over their dead corpse and find someone new, because there will be someone else just around the corner that you just haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. And don't get discouraged. And of course, there's loads of assholes out there, and most of the guys are going to be assholes, but that's fine, because you shouldn't be discouraged. And then tomorrow is a new day, and maybe tomorrow you will find someone great. So try to get out of the meeting what you can. If he's an asshole but the sex is great, then just focus on that part, and don't cry over some dickhead that is not even going to remember your name, and just move on to the next guy. And if you want to have sex on the first date, then that's up to you. So you shouldn't let society or the rules dictate what you can and cannot do. And if the guy will not accept you because you have sex on the first date, then obviously he's not the right guy for you. So just find someone who will accept you for who you are, and who does celebrate your sexuality and you as a person, and thinks you're beautiful, and doesn't want to change anything about you, and is perfectly delighted with who you are.
And I think the key here, and a lot of lessons from your story, is to really, trust your gut and know that what you're choosing, right? It's like you had all the red flags, but you still decided to ignore your knowing and do something else. And if you're in a relationship right now, and if you are married and you're listening to this and you feel like you're finding yourself in this story, or you feel like you're giving up some parts of you that you want to bring back, start the conversation with your partner and see how you can bring those parts back if it's possible. We're not saying like just go and walk away. We're saying get an awareness, ask the questions, communicate. So thank you so much, Nicki, for being here today.
Thank you for having me on.
If the listeners want to find you, where can they find you?
Well, you can, if you're interested in anything Japan related, you can go to my website, www.tokyo tours, and Tokyo is spelled the Dutch way, so with an I and not with a Y. So that is TOKIO, and then tours, TOURS.nl. Or if they're interested in me personally, I have my own Instagram account which they can follow, which is Nicki NICKI _ Amsterdam. And basically you can find me on any platform under Tokyo Tours. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, what have you. So just search Tokyo Tours and you can find me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for listening, and tune in next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If this was a contribution to you, please share, like, love, and comment. I would love to hear from you more, and make sure to follow us on Morph Healing. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember, you are here for a reason. I see you. Love, more.